promised that you'd explain everything that I needed to know about success in the theater.
Well, the question is whether you are actually prepared to learn. I must warn you that I am about to open heavy doors in front of you, and will soon head off into the realm of darkness.
I'm much more curious than I've ever been.
What is the reason for your preoccupation with the topic of success? Why are you so fascinated by it?
Because I'd hate to lose myself, as it happened to your favorite disciple Alypius, who thought he could shield himself from the lurid pleasure of popular gladiator games.
Has the fall of Alypius actually taught you about the nature of theatre and its effects?
When urged by his friends, Alypius went to the amphitheater. He assumed that only his body would take part in those cruel and deadly spectacles, but would look away and think of other things.
Then why did he keep coming back?
His hearing.
Yes, and what else?
His body. Taken over by the dazzling tremor of this frantic racket, his entire body had been imbued with the swelling rhythm of the audience, swimming in delight.
When did the body and the soul and mind of Alypius become one with the crowd? When did he take a sip from the chalice of inhumanity in unison with everyone else present?
At the very moment he spotted the blood of the poor gladiator fallen to the ground, instead of turning away, he was transfixed, inebriated by this vision, just like every other spectator in the mad buzz of the auditorium.
Correct. The individual bodies have given up their personalities in order to become one, celebrating the gladiator's agony as one body. They even went as far as demanding a final thrust by turning their thumbs down.
Which didn't take long.
The question is, did Alypius turn into Aquila in that very instant?
From a legal point of view, no, but the mere fact of his witnessing the events and his bloodthirsty passion, that made him a murderer too.
This implies that looking is synonymous with participating. It even suggests becoming one of the perpetrators.
I'm afraid it's true.
So, pornographic games are not only perpetuated by those who pay for them, but also by those who are watching them in secret under the guise of anonymity. Could it be that, not knowing what they were doing, they were actually rejoicing in their own pointless death? You're crying.
You may well be right. It was the pleasure of their own death wish that overwhelmed them, and the gladiator disappears as if he never existed.
In this case, theatre has turned into a diabolical spectacle that rejoices in the death of others rather than celebrating renewal and elevation. It promises the ignorant crowd a reality pageant, whilst, in fact, only acknowledging death as the sole reality.
I used to think that labeling theatrical spectacles as diabolical was far too cruel. But look, Master, I'm also crying with happiness, not only with bitterness.
Yes, let's be thankful that the evil successes of theatre didn't leave a fatal wound on Alypius' soul.
Is it possible to distinguish between malevolent and benevolent success? Is there such a thing as benevolent success at all?
You seem to be unsure about the possibility of benevolent success.
Because I can see that success is the preamble to depravity, you can't deny that some of our best people have fallen victim to their own success. Men and women have turned into idols in front of our very eyes, to the extent that they have even forgotten how to walk properly. As soon as they had lent themselves to success, they started to sashay left and right, as if they were statues of their own selves, squealing with delight whenever birds decided to take refuge on their heads and do their business there. For them, this was none other than a confirmation of their immortality, seeing that in this way they could picture themselves as public monuments, complete with steaming afresh bird droppings on their heads. Forgive me for seeing only darkness here, but you must admit that success is the most radiant shadow of evil that, unbeknownst to us, shrouds us and consumes our humanity. What's more, it even makes us mad, akin to swine-fanged Medusa heads.
It seems to me that you are teaching me about success and not the other way round. Your bitter words remind me of my lost disciples, those who've been absorbed into the hell of worldly success, and consequently lost their faces. Soon thereafter, they've begun imitating themselves and haven't even refrained from appropriating other people's intellectual property in order to further chase the big beast of success.
Does it make sense to continue musing about success then?
It not only makes sense, but it's outright imperative.
So what is success then? In your own words, there's nothing more haphazard and more dependent on chance, and there's nothing more subject to the whims and fancies of the people than theatrical success.
These are indeed my words. In Latin, we have the term successu, a noun alluding to fleeting military success, and then the compound successu exaltans, which foregrounds the emotionally raptured screaming soldier,
who conjures up the goddess Fortuna before everything falls apart and decays. So, they revert to a ruse and put on theater. They dress up in the clothes of their enemy together with their military insignia because, in hindsight, success suspends all deliberation and justifies any false pretense. Fortune, success, decay. What a lovely concatenation. They follow from one another. If success is really the consequence of a fatal misunderstanding, shouldn't you try with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength to avoid it as much as possible? In case you were unable to do this because it simply came our way, wouldn't it be better to at least turn your back and refuse to partake in it?
We aren't that advanced just yet. For the time being, it's enough if we become aware of the fact that success and warfare give birth to similar situations. Even the greatest allies end up enemies to be vanquished, who, in hindsight, have to be isolated, excluded, brought into disrepute, and denounced under a variety of false pretenses in the name of success, before finally finding themselves eradicated for good. The spheres of culture, be it agoras, forums, gymnasia, and academies, have turned into gory amphitheaters of hate games, and are hence carefully avoided by the spirit of freedom.
You are going further than I did in my bitterness. Would you say that the quest for success is ultimately a blind act of war?
You had the opportunity to see this for yourself.
Still, what connects warfare and the obsession with success?
Bloodthirst. And the desire for domination.
There's nothing more brutal than the sheer utterance of truth.
And there's nothing more affectionate than the merciful utterance of truth.
You may well be right, but I'm still afraid.
You're right to be afraid, especially if your fear teaches you sobriety, and if you refuse to put your mind or soul up for sale under any circumstances.
Teach me about the nature of benevolent success.
Benevolent, not beneficial or useful. Sure, we can carry on, provided you are of the belief that theatrical effects can transform unsuspecting participants into random perpetrators.
I've been a perpetrator more often than I care to remember. I'm ready to carry on.